We read a sentence, and the first thing we ask is, what does it mean? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. We rush to meaning. Heaven, is that the sky? Is it the afterlife? Earth, is that the ground, the planet? Created, what is that? Did something appear from nothing? Is this from nothing to something? But pause. If we keep reading, just 2 verses later, the text will say, "Let there be, and there was." It already knows how to speak about being. So why does this sentence use created? Perhaps it is not explaining mechanics. Perhaps it is doing something else. Let us step back. What is interpretation? We bring a dictionary, we bring history, we bring culture, we bring background. We place the sentence in front of us as an object. We interpret it. The sentence is not the standard. We are. But what if that is reversed? I read the Bible reads me. I interpret the text interprets me. That sounds uncomfortable, but stay there. Do not interpret this sentence yet. Let it stand. Look at it again. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Do not ask what heaven is. Do not ask what earth is. Do not ask what created means. Look at what the sentence itself fixes before you explain anything. God, singular, subject. God is not the object of created. God is not the result of created. God is not inside the action as his product. The heaven and the earth, object. They are not the subject. They are not the performer. They are not the source. This is not theology yet. This is grammar. Now look carefully, not from the beginning. In the beginning, the sentence places creation within the beginning. It does not place God there. It simply does not assign that coordinate to him. The prepositional phrase modifies the act of creation. It establishes the frame within which the act is spoken. That frame applies to the act of creation. It does not function as a locative predicate of the subject. And within that framed act, one object is named, the heaven and the earth. With respect to God, the grammar does not specify location. The grammar is silent, and the silence is precise. Created, the heaven and the earth. Not created, God. Notice something else. The sentence does not say, created the heaven and created the earth. There is one verb and one object. The heaven and the earth stand together as a single articulated whole. One act, one object, two names. The grammar does not present two creations. It presents one totality named in a dual expression. We have not defined heaven. We have not defined earth. We have not defined created. And yet something has been fixed. All that is created stands as a single named whole. Nothing else is named. Notice the article, not heaven and earth. The heaven, the earth. The grammar marks them as definite. No introduction, no prior description, no explanation. And yet they are not presented as indefinite. The sentence does not say a heaven and an earth. It says the heaven and the earth. The article does not explain what they are. It marks them as referentially stable. They are grammatically identifiable. Before definition, definiteness. Before explanation, reference. Because they are definite, they stand as stable reference, not described, not divided, but grammatically fixed. This does not mean speech has already occurred. God has not yet said anything, but the field of reference is not absent. It stands. When speech comes, it will address what the grammar has fixed. Before temporal sequence is introduced, reference is secured. Before division, before light, before separation, the whole stands as a grammatically established referent. Why two words? Why not cosmos? Why not world? Why not universe? Why a pair? Division has not yet occurred. Nothing has yet been separated. And yet a dual expression stands. The sentence is not describing parts. It is securing the whole. And something else. God has not yet spoken. That will happen in the next verse. But speech does not fall into emptiness. It arrives where reference already stands. This sentence fixes the field to which speech will come. It does not explain how things work. It establishes where things stand. One object, two names. The conjunction joins them without merging them. They are not reduced to a single term. Nor does the sentence say, created the heaven and created the earth. The verb appears once. The object appears once. They stand together as a coordinated whole. Coordinated, not reduced, not fused. And now, another assumption collapses. We assume that in the beginning refer to time, a first moment, a point on a timeline. But look again. The sentence does not say at first. It does not say once upon a time. It does not say before that. There is no earlier, there is no later, there is no duration, there is no comparison point. Nothing in the grammar presents the beginning as a measurable term. In the beginning is not grammatically presented as part of a temporal sequence. It does not specify a temporal coordinate. It cannot be treated as an independent unit. It stands only as the opening condition of the sentence. It opens a grammatical horizon. It does not locate an event in time. It establishes the domain within which anything may now be spoken. That horizon frames creation. It does not state how God relates to the beginning. We wanted meaning. Instead, the sentence has positioned us. We wanted explanation. Instead, the sentence has drawn a line between God and all that is named as created. We thought we were reading it. But before we defined a single word, it defined a field in which we stand. Read it once more. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Do not interpret it. Stand inside it. And let it read you. This is not a study. It is a reading in which you are being read. The Bible was not written in one single language. Grammar can only be observed within a single system. We are not asking what the text means. We are delaying meaning. We are observing structure. For that reason, we will read the King James Version, not because it is preferred, but because it preserves the form of the sentence as a sentence. And that is where we begin. Now we begin with the smallest word. Look at the conjunction. The sentence continues, and not by accident. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 forms a grammatically complete statement. Creation has been stated. It is not restated. Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 does not begin again. It does not say then. It does not say afterward. It does not say now. It says and does not itself mark temporal sequence. It marks continuation. Each enriches back. And the earth was, and darkness was, and the Spirit of God moved. Not because, not therefore, addition, continuation. The sentence proceeds. Notice the first subject. The earth. In the beginning, the heaven and the earth were named together. Now, only one is spoken, the earth. Heaven is not mentioned. Silence is not deletion. Not introduced again, referred to. The article remains. No creation verb appears here. Was appears. The focus narrows from the whole to one named term. No new act, only exposure. Now look at the structure. Three clauses stand before us. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Three different constructions. First, subject copula, predicate complement. The earth was without form and void. State is described. Second, subject, copula, prepositional complement. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. Not existential, not the construction there was darkness. Position is described. Third, subject, lexical verb, prepositional phrase. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, not state, action. State, position, movement. Notice the two uses of was. The earth was without form. Here was linked subject to state. But darkness was upon the face of the deep. Here was linked subject to location. The verb is the same, the function is not. The clause does not declare that darkness came into being. It does not say darkness began. It describes where darkness was. Not existential, locative. Now look at the first clause again. And the earth was without form and void. No transition is described. No prior condition is mentioned. Two terms are given. Without form and void, they are joined. They are not explained. A state is described, nothing more. Now look at position. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. Upon, not within, not identical, not merged. Upon the face of the deep. The clause does not define the deep. It does not interpret the darkness. It places. Distinction remains. Now notice the subject phrase. The Spirit, not a spirit, the Spirit. And then of God. A function inside the noun phrase. It specifies the Spirit by reference to God. The clause does not define the nature of the relation. It simply marks the Spirit as grammatically related to God. The subject is not generic, it is specified. Now look at movement. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The verb changes, moved. No object is produced. Nothing is said to be made. Movement is stated. And again, upon the face of. The waters, not water. The waters. Definite, plural, unexplained. The movement is described with reference to the surface. No merging, no transformation is stated. Distinction remains. Now look at all three together. The earth was, darkness was upon, the Spirit of God moved upon. State, position, movement. No light yet, no division yet, no naming yet. Only what the grammar gives. Creation has been stated, speech has not yet begun. And let it read you. And God said, and, not then, not afterward, not because, and. It continues. Chapter 1 verse 2 described state, position, movement, and now a different kind of verb appears. Notice the subject and verb. God, already named, not introduced again. Subject, the God who created, now speaks. Said, not was, not moved, not created, a speech verb. This clause does not describe a condition, it reports an utterance. And the comma does not close the thought, it opens the content. Now look at the content itself. Let there be light. This is imperative in form. Let, not permission in ordinary usage, not addressed to a human agent, not let him, not let them. Let there be light. There, dummy subject. Be, base form. Light, post-verbal noun. This is an existential structure inside an imperative frame. Light does not occupy the grammatical subject position. Light first appears with the reported speech. Now look at the second clause. And there was light. Again, there, dummy subject. Was, existential be. Light, post-verbal noun. Not, light was something. Not, light was upon. There was light. Existential clause. Now compare with chapter 1 verse 2. In chapter 1 verse 2, the earth was without form, darkness was upon the face of the deep. Was, copula, linking subject to complement. In the first clause, state. In the second, location. Not existential. Not there was darkness. Darkness stands as subject. Its being is not foregrounded. Its position is. But here, there was light. Not linking. Not locative. Existential. Same word. Different structure. In 1-2 was connects what is already named. In 1-3 was foregrounds what was not previously named in this position. Notice the structural correspondence. Let there be light. There was light. Directive existential. Declarative existential. The form answers the form. The conjunction does not explain. It connects. No explicit causal marker appears. The text reports on utterance. It does not grammatically state what the utterance accomplishes. Said is a speech verb. It is not made. It is not produced. Existence is declared in a separate clause. There was light. The relation between speech and existence is placed in sequence, not grammatically defined as mechanism. That absence is noticeable. So we stay there. We do not repair the gap. We continue observing. Now look at darkness and light together. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. Position is given upon the face of the deep. Darkness is situated. It is grammatically embedded within description. Its existence is not introduced. It is presupposed as referentially active. Light is different. Light appears first, within speech, not in subject position, not in location. Then, there was light. Existence is foregrounded, but no place is assigned. Darkness, position without existential introduction. Light, existential introduction without position. Now step back and see the structure across chapter 1 verses 1 through 3. Chapter 1 verse 1, God created the heaven and the earth. Creation secures the relation between God and the totality named. It does not describe how being comes to be. It fixes the domain. Chapter 1 verse 2, within that domain. State, position, movement. No new creation verb. No existential declaration. Description unfolds. Chapter 1 verse 3. Speech appears. Light is first spoken. Then, there was light. Existence is declared within the already secure totality. Creation is stated before speech. Existence is existentially declared after speech. The grammar does not explain how. It does not insert mechanism. It orders verbs. Create was, said, be was. The sequence stands. Look once more at this verse. And God said, let there be, and there was. Speech, directive, existence. No location yet, no evaluation yet, no division yet. Only what the grammar gives, the structure stands. And let it read you. And God saw the light. Look at the verb. God saw, not created, not said, not made, not divided, saw. A perception verb. The light is not produced here. It is not declared here. It is not explained here. It is seen. Notice the article. Not light, the light. In 1-3, there was light. No article, existential introduction. Now, the light, definite. Already established in the discourse, what was introduced is now perceived. The existential clause precedes the perception clause. Now look at the clause that follows. That it was good. Not a new declaration. Not God declared it good. Not God made it good. Not the light was good as an independent sentence. That, embedded. It, referring back to the light. Was, copula. Good, predicate adjective. Evaluation appears inside perception. It is not grammatically introduced as a separate act. Pause here. The text does not say the light shone. It does not say the light illuminated. It does not say the light dispelled darkness. It says God saw the light. Light is seen before it is described as acting. The grammar gives no further description, so we stay there. Now look at the next verb. And God divided the light from darkness. Not light divided darkness, not darkness withdrew, God divided. The subject is explicit, division is attributed. Notice the structure. Divided the light from the darkness. From, marker of separation, marker of distinction. To definite reference. The light, the darkness. The prior configuration is not described. The text does not describe a prior mixture. It does not say that one overwhelmed the other. It states separation. In 1:3, light was introduced as existence. In 1:4, light is perceived. Its goodness is embedded in the perception, and separation is performed. Existence, perception, embedded evaluation, division. No mechanism inserted. No causal markers applied. Only what the grammar gives. And let it read you. Look at the conjunction. And, not then, not afterward, not because, and. It continues. 1:4 ended with division. 1:5 proceeds with naming. Notice the first verb. Called. Not was, not moved, not said. Called. A naming verb. God called the light day. Subject, verb, object, naming complement. Light is not described. Day is not defined. A name is given. Now notice the parallel. And the darkness he called night. Called appears again. The structure repeats. Light, day, darkness, night. Two objects, two naming complements. The verse does not explain what light is. It does not explain what darkness is. It names. Now notice the asymmetry inside the parallel. God called the light day. But for darkness the clause shifts its order. And the darkness he called night. Darkness is fronted. The clause rearranges its elements. The naming remains. The verse marks distinction even in its sentence form. Now look at what follows. And the evening and the morning were the first day. A new clause, a different verb. Were, copula. This is not naming, it is identification. Notice the subject. The evening and the morning. A pair, joined by and, one composite subject. Plural form, singular complement. Not 2 days, not 2 units. One clause, one complement. Now look carefully at the complement. The first day. Earlier, God called the light day. There, day functioned as a naming complement. Here, the first day. Predicate complement, an identified unit. The word is the same, the grammatical role is not. The text reuses the word without resolving its shift in function. Now look inside the phrase. The first day, the, definite, not a day. First, ordinal, not brightness, not duration, ordinal. A marked place in a sequence. The grammar opens a repeatable position in sequence. If there is a first, there can be a second, a third. The form allows continuation. The text does not define what a day is. It marks the first ordered unit. Observe the asymmetry. Light and darkness are named, but only day is numbered. There is no first night. Sequence is marked by day, not by night. The text does not explain why, it simply structures it so. Notice what is not said. It does not say a day is light and darkness. It does not say a day consists of evening and morning. It does not say a day equals 24 hours. It does not define, it identifies, it marks. Stand inside the structure. Naming, then identification, then ordinality. The same word reused, a different grammatical role, a repeatable sequence opened. No duration described, no mechanism explained. The grammar closes the cycle and prepares the next. Read it once more. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Do not interpret it. stand inside it, and let it read you. Look at the verb pattern. God created, the earth was, the Spirit of God moved. Then God said, and there was, God saw, God divided, God called, the first day. Speech with directive existential, existence declared, perception with embedded evaluation, division, naming, ordinal marking. One cycle closes. No mechanism explained, no duration described, no causation narrated. The grammar has formed a unit, and it proceeds again. Look at the conjunction, not then, not afterward, and. The sequence continues. A new speech clause appears. Now look at the speech. Let there be a firmament, but the clause does not stop there. In the midst of the waters, existence appears together with relation. The firmament is introduced within reference to the waters. Notice the noun phrase, the waters. The noun phrase has already appeared. In verse 2, the face of the waters. The form is the same, definite, plural. The clause does not say waters appeared. The waters are already present in the discourse. Now the second clause, and let it divide the waters from the waters. The noun is repeated, waters, waters. The clause does not name two different things. It repeats the same noun. The clause states the division. The narration will show how the division is realized. Now watch the narration. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which are under the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament. The verb appears again, divide. But notice how the difference appears, not in the noun, waters, waters. The difference appears in the modifiers. Notice the verb in the narration. The narration does not say there was a firmament. Instead, God made the firmament. The narration presents the firmament through the verb made. The words are not two different nouns. The clause repeats the same noun, waters, waters. A division between identical nouns requires a reference. The firmament provides the reference. The text names the reference in the midst of the waters. And immediately after, the waters are described, under the firmament, above the firmament. The firmament stands as the reference term for the division, not as the agent that performs it. The division itself is performed by God. The speech clause says, let it divide the waters from the waters. The narration then shows how the division occurs. God made the firmament, and God divided the waters. Look at the phrases, the waters which were under the firmament, the waters which are above the firmament. The waters are the same noun. The distinction appears through relation to the firmament. Notice what the grammar does not describe. The waters have already been mentioned. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, but the text never describes any physical location for the waters. No place is named, no spatial setting is explained. Now the firmament appears. God made the firmament, but the text does not tell us where the firmament is located. Instead, the grammar provides only relations. In the midst of the waters, under the firmament, above the firmament, the nouns remain the same. Waters, firmament. The difference appears only through relation. Notice the prepositions, under, above. Without the firmament, these relations could not be stated. The reference term makes the distinction possible. No distance is measured. No elevation is described. The grammar marks relation. Now notice the verbs. God made the firmament. God divided the waters. Both actions belong directly to God. The narration does not describe a state appearing. It describes the action themselves. Then the text says, and it was so. Nothing further appears. Notice what is missing. No saw, no perception clause. The text does not say, God saw that it was good. In day 1, perception followed narration. Here, it is absent. The clause does not appear. Naming follows, and God called the firmament heaven. Naming appears after the description. Notice the word heaven. The term already appeared in verse 1. There it stood inside the created totality, the heaven and the earth. Here it functions differently. It names the firmament. The text doesn't explain the relation between the two uses. It simply repeats the word in a new grammatical position. The clause does not tell us whether the same word refers to the same thing. It does not tell us whether it refers to something different. The text leaves the relation unstated. The observation continues. The cycle closes with the ordinal marker, and the evening and the morning were the second day. The sequence continues. Observe the structural contrast. Day 1, speech, existential, narration, existential, perception, present. Day 2, speech, existential with relational placement, narration, transitive realization, perception, absent. The pattern remains, but not identically. Let it stand and let it read you. A speech clause continues. Look at the conjunction, not then, not afterward, and. And God said. Inside the speech, two directives appear. First, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. Second, and let the dry land appear. Both stand inside the same speech. They are joined by and. No causal word appears. The text does not say because, therefore, so that. Two directives stand together. Neither is described as producing the other. Look carefully at the first directive, be gathered together. The verb appears in the passive form. The clause does not name an agent. The clause does not present the waters as the acting subject. The text does not say who gathers the waters. The form simply stands. Earlier, the text described movement. Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 reads, "The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." There, the subject was explicit. The relation was stated. But here, the form changes. The waters are not named as the active performer. They are described in the passive form, be gathered together. The clause presents the gathering without naming the agent. The result is stated. Now notice the phrase, unto one place. A spatial expression appears. But the text does not describe a landscape. No path is narrated. No motion is described. The waters are described as gathered together onto one place. The phrase marks the place where the waters stand as gathered. The process is not narrated. Now look at the second directive. Let the dry land appear. The adjective appears inside the noun phrase, dry. The text does not say that the land became dry. The word dry already stands inside the noun phrase. The directive does not produce dryness. The land is referred to as dry. Now observe the transition. Speech. Let the waters be gathered. Let the dry land appear. Then the text reads, and it was so. Between the speech and the realization, no process is described. No sequence is narrated. The clause simply confirms it was so. Now the text continues, and God called the dry land earth. Earlier the text used the same pattern. In day 1, God called the light day and the darkness night. Later the narration uses the noun day in the phrase the first day. In day 2, God called the firmament heaven. Later the text refers to waters under the heaven. The naming does not remain isolated. The name becomes the reference noun used by the narration. Another pattern also appears. In the text, speech always appears before naming. The text never presents called before said. Naming follows what the speech has already introduced. Now look at the clause. And God called the dry land earth. The speech said, let the dry land appear. But the narration does not record a clause such as the dry land appeared. No separate clause describes the land appearing. Instead, the text moves directly to naming. The dry land receives the name, earth. The next clause reads, and the gathering together of the waters, called the seas. Notice the naming target. The text does not name waters or one place. The text names the gathering together of the waters. Notice the form of the naming. The waters themselves are not named. the gathering is named. The name appears last, sees, plural. Finally, the text reads, "And God saw that it was good." Now the perception clause appears. Notice the sequence: speech, realization, naming, perception. The dry land is called earth. The gathering together of the waters is called seas. The text states the result without narrating the transition between them. Now the name terms stand. Heaven, seas, and earth stand in the text as named references. The cycle closes structurally, but the day is not yet sealed by ordinal marking, and the text continues. Look again at the opening words. "And God said," the directive frame appears again. Let. Across the earlier passages, this directive remained constant, but the verb forms inside the directive changed. Recall the earlier speech clauses. First day, let there be light. The clause used, be, an existential verb. Second day, let there be a firmament. The existential form remained. Then another directive appeared. Let it divide the waters from the waters, a clause with a subject and a transitive verb. On the third day, the pattern shifts again. First directive, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto a place. A subject phrase appears with a passive verb. Then another directive, let the dry land appear, a clause with a subject and an intransitive verb. Across the first 3 days, the speech content changes its verb type, the verb forms vary, the directive frame remains. Now observe the next directive. Let the earth bring forth. The text does not say produce, it does not say create, it says bring forth. The clause now contains a subject phrase and a transitive verb. The earth stands in the subject position. The clause let the earth bring forth comes only after the earth has been named. Now look at the realization marker, and it was so. The same marker appears again. Then the narration expands the realization, and the earth brought forth grass. The verb repeats. Speech, bring forth. Narration, brought forth. The same verb appears again. Now notice the sentence structure. Earlier in the chapter, when terms other than God appears as subjects, they appear with the verb was. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. These are copular clauses. Here the structure changes. The earth stands as subject with a lexical verb. The earth brought forth. This structure has not appeared earlier. Notice the location phrase, upon the earth. The clause already begins with, let the earth bring forth. The same noun appears again inside the location phrase, earth, upon the earth. The word functions twice. First, as the grammatical subject of bring forth. Then, as the reference point of the location phrase. The same noun appears in both positions. What the earth brings forth is described upon the earth. Now observe the objects of the verb. 3 objects appear: grass, the herb yielding seed, the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind. The objects stand in parallel. Notice the participial structures. Yielding seed, yielding fruit. The verb appears in the present participle form. These participles modify the noun, herb, yielding seed, tree, yielding fruit. Notice the prepositional phrase, after its kind. The phrase appears inside the noun phrase. It modifies the participial description. The preposition after places the description according to kind. The text does not define the term. The phrase simply stands. Now observe the relative clause. Whose seed is in itself, a relative pronoun appears. Whose. The clause extends the noun phrase. Notice how the object structure returns. The objects appear again in the narration, but the phrases are not identical. First, notice how the objects are joined. In the speech, grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind. Only the final object is introduced by. and. In the narration, grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit. The conjunction appears before the second and before the third object. The objects return, the coordination shifts. First object, grass, the word appears again. No article appears, the form remains unchanged. Second object, speech, the herb yielding seed. Narration, herb yielding seed after its kind. The article disappears, a prepositional phrase appears after its kind. Third object, speech, the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind. Narration, the tree yielding fruit. The article remains, the noun changes, fruit tree becomes tree. The phrase after its kind moves to a later position, after whose seed was in itself. Notice the relative clause again, whose seed was in itself. The clause returns, the relation remains, seed in itself. The prepositional phrase remains, in itself. The clause still extends the noun phrase. It speaks again of the seed, of what is brought forth. Now notice the realization marker, and it was so. The phrase first appears on the second day. Its placement changes from day to day. First day, let there be light, and there was light. The speech clause and the realization clause share the same form. The verb is be. The narration repeats the same structure. The realization is stated directly. No marker appears. Second day, the speech says, let it divide the waters from the waters. The clause presents the firmament as the expected subject of the division. But the narration does not repeat the form. God made the firmament and divided the waters. The division described in the speech appears in the narration. But the grammatical structure changes. The subject is God, then the marker appears, and it was so. Third day, first cycle, the directive appears. Let the waters be gathered together. Let the dry land appear. The marker follows immediately, and it was so. No narration clause follows after the marker. Instead, the text proceeds to naming. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called it seas. The action, gather, returns in the noun phrase. The gathering together, the realization appears inside the naming structure. Third day, second cycle, the directive appears again. Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself, and it was so. The narration follows. The earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself, after its kind. The objects return, but their internal structure changes. In the speech, fruit stands at the center of the description. The fruit tree yields fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself. The seed appears inside the fruit. In the narration, the structure shifts. The herb yields seed after its kind. The phrase after its kind now attached to the seed. The seed appears across the herb and the fruit. Two descriptions. The speech describes the plant through the fruit that contains seed. The narration describes the plant through the seed after its kind. The wording differs, the structures differ, but both describe what the earth brings forth, and the marker stands between them, and it was so. Now observe what the earth brings forth. Grass, herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit. These are named, but the text does not name life. No word for life appears, no term for living creature appears. The passage names the products, it does not yet name life. Now observe the perception clauses. And God saw that it was good. The third day contains two speech cycles, and God said, and God said. Each cycle concludes with, and God saw that it was good. Two perception clauses appear within the same day. The third day is sealed, and the evening and the morning were the third day. The ordinal marking appears again. Speech, realization, naming, perception. Speech, realization, perception, ordinal marking. Let the text stand, and let it read you. Look at the opening clause. The previous sentence closed the cycle, and the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, Not then, not afterward, not because. The conjunction remains, and another speech clause appears. Now look at the structure of the whole passage. Before examining the details, look at the structure of the sentences. And God said, let, let. And it was so. And God made, and God made. And God said, and God saw. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Speech, realization, narration, perception, cycle closure, the structure remains. But the internal grammar becomes more complex. Now look inside the speech. Three directives appear. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. Three clauses, joined by and, no causal markers, no explanation, they stand together. Notice the noun that appears, lights, not light. Earlier there was light, singular, now lights, plural. But the clause does not yet identify them. The clause names them without specifying them. The words are related, but the text does not use them in the same way. Now notice the first infinitive phrase. To divide the day from the night. Divide. Earlier in the chapter, divide already appeared. God divided the light from the darkness. Now the same verb appears inside the speech clause. The clause states the purpose, but the speech does not explain how the division occurs. Now look at the second directive. Let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years. Be for. The lights are described in relation to these terms. No verbs explain their temporal operation. The clause assigns relation. The text names days and years, but it does not describe how they are measured. Now notice the third directive. Let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. The noun light appears again. But the text does not simply repeat the earlier noun. The lights are spoken of as being for the giving of light. But now the noun appears inside the new construction, to give light. The text does not say that the lights shine. It says that they give light. A directional phrase appears upon the earth. The lights are placed in the firmament of heaven. Their light is directed upon the earth. The speech now contains division, signs, seasons, days, and years, illumination. But no process is narrated. The directives stand. Now the realization marker appears, and it was so. The clause appears again. As in earlier passages, no explanation, no intermediate description, speech stands, realization is stated. But pause here. In earlier cycles, the speech already suggested what the narration would say. Let there be light, and there was light. Let it divide the waters. God divided the waters. Let the earth bring forth. The earth brought forth. The speech and the narration stood close in wording. But here something changes. The speech partially reveals what the narration will say. The directive has been spoken, but its structure does not yet show what will appear next, so we continue. Now watch the narration carefully. And God made two great lights. Earlier the speech said, lights, plural, indefinite. Now the narration specifies them, two great lights. The noun from the speech returns, but the form changes. The speech did not mention two. The speech did not mention greater. The speech did not mention lesser. The narration introduces distinctions that the speech did not name. Notice the comparative structure. The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. Comparatives appear, greater, lesser. The speech did not contain these terms. A new verb appears as well, rule. The speech spoke of division, signs and seasons, illumination. But it did not speak of rule. Again, notice the wording, rule the day, rule the night. The verb appears. But the text does not explain how this rule occurs. No process is described. The clause simply states the wording. But notice something else. Earlier in the speech we heard, to divide the day from the night. That verb appeared within the directive itself. Now the narration speaks again. but it does not repeat divide. Instead, it introduces rule. The greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. Day and night are now spoken of in relation to different lights. The narration does not yet say the lights divide. Instead, it presents a structure in which the day and the night stand under different rulers. The division named in the speech now appears through differentiated rule. Now notice the additional clause. He made the stars also. Also, the word is small, but the grammar is precise. Stars are included within the same act of making. The speech said lights, but the narration now includes the stars also. The noun is different, the category expands, the narration reveals what the speech had not specified. Notice what the text does not say. The passage names two great lights, but it does not name the sun. It names the lesser light, but it does not name the moon. The words do not appear. The text says two great lights. We do not replace the words. We remain with the words of the text. Now watch the next verb. And God said them. Them refers to what has just been made, two great lights, and the stars also. The verb changes, made, then set. The narration does not stop with the act of making. Another action appears. God made them, then God set them. The text does not describe movement. It does not describe orbit or motion. The verb simply says set. Now look at what follows the verb. God set them in the firmament of the heaven. Earlier the speech spoke of lights in the firmament of the heaven. Now the narration assigns their location explicitly. The lights are not only made, they are set. Now notice the results that follow the setting. To give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. Three infinitive clauses appear, joined by and, give, rule over, divide. Earlier the speech named division and illumination. Now the narration attaches these results to what has been made and said. Notice something carefully. Earlier in the narration we read, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. But here the phrase changes, to rule over the day and over the night. The verb remains, but the structure shifts. The preposition appears, over, the grammatical relation expands. Notice what the change allows. Earlier the clauses belonged to the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. The stars do not appear there, but when the structure expands to rule over the day and over the night, the subject changes, them. The two great lights and the stars also. The stars enter only here, within the structure, rule over. Now observe the final clause. To divide the light from the darkness. The wording returns. Earlier we read, God divided the light from the darkness. Now the same expression appears again, but it is no longer appears as a direct main verb of God. Now look at the sentence structure. These results do not appear as independent actions. They remain attached to the same verb. God set them to give light, to rule over, to divide. The lights appear in the passage, but the structure remains within the act of God. Step back for a moment. The speech declared, "Let there be lights," but the speech alone does not yet show how those lights will appear within the narration. The directive names lights, but it does not name two great lights. It does not name greater and lesser. It does not name the stars also, nor does it mention rule. These appear only when the narration unfolds. The speech stands, the narration follows. What the speech named, the narration now describes. And God saw that it was good. The day is sealed with the ordinal marking. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Speech, realization, specification, placement, perception, ordinal marking. The grammar proceeds. Let the text stand, and let it read you. Look again at the opening clause. And God said, the conjunction remains, and the previous cycle closed with, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Immediately the narration opens again with another speech clause. And God said, the sequence continues. Now look inside the directive. Let the waters bring forth abundantly. The waters appear as the grammatical subject of the action described in the directive. Earlier the waters had been divided. Earlier they had been gathered. Now the waters appear within the directive itself. Bring forth, the verb appears again, but now it is modified abundantly. The clause expands. Now observe the object that follows, the moving creature that hath life. Notice the construction, not creature that lives, but creature that hath life. Life appears as the object of the verb hath. The noun life enters the grammar as something possessed. Creature that hath life. The noun life appears here for the first time in the chapter. Now notice the second element of the directive. And fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. Another creature category appears, fowl. Attached to it, a modal construction appears, may fly. The text gives two coordinates, above the earth and in the open firmament of heaven. Flight is described with two references, earth below, firmament around. The two creatures are described differently. The moving creature appears without spatial reference. Movement is named, no coordinate is given. But the fowl is described with spatial reference. Flight is anchored to earth and to the firmament. Now move to the narration, but notice something first. Earlier cycles included the clause, and it was so. That clause does not appear here. The narration moves directly from speech to, and God created. The narration now begins with a different verb, created. Earlier the directive said, let the waters bring forth. One might expect the narration to say, and the waters brought forth, but the narration begins instead with, and God created. Yet the earlier verb does not disappear. It returns within the same sentence, which the waters brought forth abundantly. Both verbs now stand together within the narration, created and brought forth. Now observe the first object, great whales. The phrase appears first as the opening object of the verb created. Now the distributive structure appears, every living creature that moveth. Every, the determiner appears, singular form, but distributive reference, every living creature. The relative clause follows, that moveth. The grammar moves from a single mention to distributive description. Now observe the returning clause, which the waters brought forth abundantly. The earlier verb returns, bring forth abundantly. Earlier it appeared inside the speech, now it appears inside the narration. The verb shifts from directive to description. Now notice the phrase that follows. After their kind, the phrase appears again. It follows the distributive expression, every living creature. The preposition after places the phrase according to kind. Now the second distributive phrase appears. And every winged fowl after his kind. The parent repeats, every fowl after his kind. Now observe the perception clause. And God saw that it was good. The perception clause appears again. Speech has been spoken. Creation has been narrated, and perception follows. Now a new verb enters. And God blessed them. Blessed. This verb has not appeared earlier in the chapter. A new action enters the grammar. The object appears as well. Them, the creatures that have just been described, become the object of blessing. Now notice the structure that follows. Bless them, saying. Blessing is followed by speech, but the speech does not appear as an independent clause. Earlier the narration read, and God said, the speech stood at the beginning of the sentence. Here the structure is different. God blessed them, saying, the speech appears inside the blessing clause. The object has already been named. Them, the recipients, are identified, before the speech begins. Now observe the imperatives. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. The verbs are imperatives, they follow the blessing. The speech now reaches the creatures themselves. Now notice the spatial structure. Fill the waters in the seas. The noun waters appears again, but now it stands in the seas. Earlier, the gathering together of the waters, God called seas. Another phrase appears, multiply in the earth. The creatures now appear within named locations. Now the day is sealed. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Speech, creation which brought forth description, perception, blessing, speech to the creatures, ordinal marking. The grammar proceeds, let the text stand, and let it read you. Genesis chapter 1 verses 1 and 2. Preparatory grammatical ground. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Creation establishes the domain within which the text proceeds. Then, state, position, movement. Day 1, existential grammar. Let there be, there was. Day 2, reference relational grammar. Firmament introduces above and under relation. Day 3, bring forth grammar. The earth stands as sentence subject. The earth brought forth. Day 4, placement grammar. And God said them. Day 5, life and bless grammar. Life appears, blessing follows. All these layers remain. Now the text proceeds again, and God said. Look at the opening clause. The conjunction appears again, and the sequence continues, and God said. A new directive begins. Look at the directive. Let the earth bring forth. The wording is familiar. Day 3, let the earth bring forth grass. The same grammar appears again. The earth stands as the sentence subject. But the object has changed. Earlier, the earth brought forth grass, herb, and tree. Now the directive reads, let the earth bring forth the living creature. The structure remains. The object changes. Now look at the objects. The living creature after its kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after its kind. The directive begins with the living creature. The wording then continues, cattle, creeping thing, beast of the earth. No explanation appears. The sentence simply continues. Now notice the phrase, after its kind. The phrase has appeared earlier, plants, creatures, fowl. Now it appears again, after its kind. The wording continues without explanation. Now watch the confirmation, and it was so. Earlier in day 5, no confirmation clause appeared. The narration moved directly to, and God created. Here the pattern returns, speech, then confirmation, and it was so. Now the narration follows, the text continues, and God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. The narration does not repeat the exact order of the speech. The directive listed living creature, cattle, creeping thing, beast of the earth. But the narration begins with beast of the earth. The sequence shifts, the verb also differs. Day 5 said, God created. Here the text reads, God made. The phrase returns, again the text repeats, after his kind, after their kind, after his kind. The phrase attaches to each element of the narration. The repetition remains immediate. Nothing interrupts the sequence. Notice another difference. The directive said, let the earth bring forth, but the narration states, and God made. The command speaks of the earth bringing forth. The narration speaks of God making. Both statements stand together. The text does not resolve them. Another difference appears. Earlier the waters were described with, which the waters brought forth abundantly. Here no such clause appears. The narration simply proceeds, God made. Now the perception clause appears, and God saw that it was good. Notice the sequence, speech, confirmation, narration, perception. The cycle closes structurally, but the day is not yet sealed by ordinal marking. Another speech follows. Look at the overall sentence structure. The text begins with speech, and God said, so God created, and God blessed them. And God said unto them, Speech appears again. Then another speech appears, and God said, And it was so. And God saw, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Now look at the opening speech clause, and God said, the conjunction appears again, and. Look at the directive clause, the wording is different. Earlier cycles said, let there be, or let the waters bring forth, or let the earth bring forth. Here the directive reads, let us make. The wording changes. The directive does not address waters, earth, or firmament. The clause reads, let us make man. Another detail appears. The verb make appeared earlier in narration. Now it appears inside the directive. Now observe the pronoun, let us make. God is named as a singular subject, yet the directive uses a plural pronoun, us. The sentence continues, let us make man. Later in the clause, the wording shifts. Man becomes them. The sentence does not pause to explain the shift. The wording simply proceeds. Now look at the phrase, in our image, after our likeness. The expression is not defined. The wording simply appears. The preposition draws attention. In our image, the pronoun appears again, our. Then another phrase follows, after our likeness. Earlier the text had used a different wording, after his kind, after their kind. Now the phrase differs, in our image, after our likeness. Now observe the second directive, and let them have dominion. The conjunction appears, and. The wording places two directives inside the same speech. Let us make man, and let them have dominion. Both clauses remain within the same speech. Now look at the dominion scope. The directive continues, over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing. The phrase repeats, over. The wording expands across the sentence. The directive gathers what appeared earlier in the chapter. Now notice something the text does not say. After the speech, the text does not say, and it was so. Earlier cycles often moved from speech to confirmation. Here the narration proceeds without confirmation. The next line reads, so God created. Now look at the next verse. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. The verb appears 3 times, created, created, created. But the 3 clauses do not share one structure. The first clause reads, God created man in his own image. The object appears as a noun, man. And the clause carries the image phrase after it. The second clause reads, in the image of God created him. Here the image phrase stands first. The subject follows the verb, and the object now appears as a pronoun, him. The third clause reads, male and female created he them. Here the wording shifts again. The clause no longer carries an image phrase. Another expression stands first, male and female, and the object now appears as plural, them. The wording moves, man, him, them. Now compare the speech and the narration. The speech said, in our image, after our likeness. The narration reads differently, in his own image. Then, in the image of God, the wording shifts, our becomes his. One expression returns, image, but one does not, after our likeness. The wording does not repeat it. Earlier phrases such as after his kind and after their kind returned in narration. Here, after our likeness does not. Now notice again what the text does not say. The narration speaks of man being created, but it does not describe man as a living creature or as one that hath life. Those expressions do not appear. The wording simply states, created. Now observe where create appears in Genesis 1. The verb appeared earlier in the chapter. In the opening verse, God created the heaven and the earth. Later the text said, God created great whales. Now the verb appears again. So God created man. In this passage, the verb appears 3 times within the same verse. Now observe the expression blessed and said. And God blessed them, and God said unto them. Earlier the text had used a different wording. God blessed them, saying, here the structure differs. The verbs appear side by side, blessed and said. Now look at the expression said unto them. Earlier cycles read simply, and God said. Here the wording changes, and God said unto them. The speech now names its addresses them. The speech is directed to them. Now look at the content of the blessing speech. Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion. The dominion wording appears again. Earlier the directive said, let them have dominion. Now the wording is spoken directly to them, have dominion. Now observe the speech beginning with behold. And God said, behold, I have given. The wording no longer begins with a directive. It begins with behold. The speech addresses you. The sentence continues. Every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. Then the clause concludes, to you it shall be for meat. Another clause follows, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. Now observe the difference in the provision. The speech now divides. Two groups appear. First, you, then, every beast of the earth, every fowl of the air, everything that creepeth upon the earth. The provisions are not identical. To you the speech says, every herb-bearing seed, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. Tree appears, fruit appears. But when the speech turns to the other creatures, the wording changes. The sentence reads, every green herb for meat. Tree does not appear, fruit does not appear. Another phrase also appears, wherein there is life. This phrase modifies the beasts, the fowl, and the creeping things. The text does not attach this phrase to the man. The text simply continues. Now notice something else. The speech describes what has been given, herb, tree, fruit, green herb. But the text does not say that the man ate. It does not say that the living creatures ate. The text states what was given. It does not narrate the act of eating. Now notice the confirmation clause. After this speech, the text states, and it was so. The confirmation appears here. Now the perception clause appears, and God saw everything that he had made. Earlier in the chapter, perception clauses appeared many times. Most of them read simply, God saw that it was good. No object was named, only the evaluation remained. But the first perception had named its object. God saw the light, that it was good. Now the perception again names its object, everything that he had made. Now notice the wording of the perception scope. The clause does not say everything that he had created. The wording reads everything that he had made. The perception now includes all that had been made throughout the chapter. Now another word appears. The verse continues, and behold, it was very good. Earlier the chapter used one expression, good. That wording appeared again and again. But here another word is added, very. The evaluation expands, not only good, very good. The text does not explain the change. It simply states it. Now the day is sealed with the ordinal marking. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Notice the sequence, speech, creation narration, blessing and speech, provision speech, confirmation, perception, evaluation, ordinal marking. Let the text stand and let it read you. Look at the opening wording. The text does not begin with and, it begins with thus. The wording differs. Look at the opening structure. Earlier the text began with speech, and God said. Here the text does not begin with speech. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Now observe the wording, the heavens and the earth. The wording is plural. Earlier, the heaven and the earth. Now observe the earlier wording. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Later, God called the firmament heaven. God called the dry land earth. The same words appear again, but now they stand after naming The words now follows what was called. The text does not say whether it is the same heaven as in the beginning. Now observe again the heavens and the earth. The wording is now plural. The text does not explain the change. The naming still stands. Notice what is not included. Waters, seas. They do not appear here. Now observe the full expression. The heavens and the earth, and all the host of them. Another expression appears. All the host of them. The text does not define it. Now observe the verb. Were finished. Not created. Not made. Finished. Now look at the next sentence. And on the seventh day, God ended his work, which he had made. The clause reads, made, not created. The verb created does not appear here. Now observe the wording, his work, which he had made. The wording had appeared before. God saw everything that he had made. After this, no making appears. Now, God ended his work, which he had made. Now observe the sequence. Were finished, and God ended, and he rested. The wording uses and, not then, after, before. Now look at the next clause, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. On the seventh day, the phrase appears again. It appears with ended and rested. Now observe the next statement, and God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. Earlier, God blessed them, saying, here no saying appears. Notice what does not appear. Earlier, the evening and the morning were the sixth day. The early marking does not appear. Instead, the text says, God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. Now observe the next clause, because that in it he had rested, not on the seventh day, but in it. The wording changes. The clause continues, from all his work which God created and made. Now observe the wording, earlier, which he had made, now, which God created and made. Both appear together. Now look carefully. God ended his work, and he rested. But when the text gives the reason, only rested appears, ended does not return. Now notice what is not present, and God said does not appear. No directive, no perception. God saw does not appear. Now observe the day, the seventh day. On the seventh day, in it, the wording repeats, but the text does not define it. It does not say how long or how the time passed. Final observation, God said does not appear. God saw does not appear. Were finished, God ended, and he rested. The text stands. The observation has come to an end. We held back the question of meaning. Now we turn to it. What is creation? Is it something coming into being from nothing? Is it an account of how the cosmos was made? It may be. But even without asking, the text already speaks. The verb appears, create. It is not the same as made. Made appears within the let, create does not. He ended his work which he had made. Create does not appear within the work that is ended. He had rested from all his work which God created and made. Here, create appears within the work. It is not the same as said, be fruitful, multiply. These appear when God said, not under create. It is not the same as bring forth. The earth brings forth, the world brings forth. God does not. The wording appears. In the beginning, God created, and after it, the speech appears. God said, not once. The wording appears again. God created living creatures, and after it, the speech appears within the blessing. The wording appears again. God created man, and God said unto man, direct address. The speech remains. The speech is not suspended. It is not distant. It is not abstract. God speaks in relation to the heaven and the earth. The wording appears. The Spirit of God was moving, and God said, the speech appears toward what is created. The wording appears, living creatures. The speech is spoken to them. The wording appears, man. The speech addresses him. The world is not discovered. The word came. From the beginning, it addressed me, and under the word, we remain. Without defining. Soli Deo Gloria.